any further ado, Sergeant Major, welcome, sir.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, Council General, sir. Good afternoon. My name is Commander Sergeant Major Mark Bowman. I'm the Commander Sergeant Major for the Illinois Army National Guard, all 10,000 soldiers and new soldiers in this state. Before I had this position, I was a CSM of the 33rd Infantry Brigade Combat Team, and I also have roots here in Maywood. My grandmother lived in this town for 40 years. And when I was a young man, I was a young boy, I remember playing on that tank. It wasn't here, it was somewhere else in town, but I remember playing on that tank. At 17, I joined active duty. I was a tanker. That was my first job for 15 years, and I think it has something to do with me on that piece of metal over there. My wife Karen has family here. Her cousin Rick Rickelman, who's here with me today, and an uncle whose name is Staff Sergeant Raymond Mason. He was also a member of Bravo Company. His tank hit a landmine, and they were cut off from their infantry support. The Japanese ordered out the crew, and when they did, they were told to run by the Japanese, and when they turned to run to the sugarcane field, they were gunned down. And Staff Sergeant Raymond Mason died on that field that day. His crew were all wounded, but made it into sugarcane. He was killed in action on the 29th of December, 1941. He was 24 years old. After 5 long months of fighting and starvation, imagine being a POW, a prisoner of war. Going weeks with little food or water, you have been beaten and abused at the hands of the Japanese. You pray, hoping that God will hear you. You want to see your family again, just for a chance to tell them that you love them. Now you're forced to walk uncountable miles with only periodic sips of dirty water and a little rice. You have no idea where you're going. You watch as people near you are being executed because they could not keep up with the thousands who march beside you. You see some beaten with rifles, stabbed with bayonets, or shot for no reason. Fearing you would be killed, you keep walking, even walking as you relieve yourself because you want to continue to blend in with your crowd. The sun and heat beat down on you for days, and you wonder how much more you can endure. Finally, after 6 long days and almost 65 miles, you reach your destination, San Fernando. You and more than 100 other men are crammed into a boxcar meant for about 30 to 40 people. The boxcar is so hot and miserable that the men next to you are dying of suffocation and heat exhaustion. Finally, the boxcars stop, and you were forced to get out back into the hot sun of Peppers. Now the guards tell you to walk again. You drag your weak body down the road. 7 miles later, you arrive at Camp O'Donnell. There, you're told to lay on your stomach on the ground and give the prison guards any last possessions you might have. You watch as many more people were killed simply because they had Japanese items or Japanese money on them. This is what it was like for almost 75,000 American and Filipino soldiers when they were ordered to surrender almost 75 years ago. It's estimated that between 6,000 to 11,000 soldiers died during that transfer of POWs following the 5-month-long battle on Bataan. Most of the soldiers who died during that march were Filipino. Some historians say only 54,000 of the 75,000 soldiers who started that march actually made it to the camps. Of the nearly 15,000 Americans taken prisoner on Bataan in 1942, between 6,000 and 7,000 died during their 3.5-year captivity. Among these men were Maywood's own Company B of the 192nd Tank Battalion, previously known as the 33rd Division Tank Company. The buddies at Proviso East, or Proviso High School, may have called them weekend warriors, but they became full-fledged warriors when the Draft Act was passed in 1940 and selected National Guard units were called to active duty and prepared for possible conflict in Europe at that time. The 33rd Tank Company was organized in May of 1929 in Maywood and was inducted into Federal service as Company B, 192nd Tank Battalion in November 1940. 11 months later, in October 1941, 89 men from Bravo Company left the United States for the Philippines, and only 43 of those soldiers ever made it back home. Arriving in the Philippines only 2 weeks before the Japanese attacked, these men were well trained, but fully equipped, and greatly outnumbered. They did what American soldiers do. They took the initiative and they fought hard. For 5 months they fought until on April 9th, 1942, they were ordered to surrender. They then began to display the strength and fortitude that few American soldiers have ever been asked to endure. The death march, followed by years of further abuse in the prison camps in the Philippines, the slave labor in Japan, Korea, and Manchuria. These soldiers, sons of Maywood, showed the whole world that American soldiers would pay for any price for liberty and defeat of tyranny. This is the legacy the Bravo Company left the 33rd Infantry Brigade Combat Team as we deployed for combat in Afghanistan in 2008. Nearly 3,300 Illinois National Guard soldiers from 30 units across this state and the brigade made up this deployment. The 33rd IBCT traces its lineage back to the 33rd Division, which included Maywood's Bravo Company. As we deployed, we knew the proud legacy of Bravo Company had established, and I truly believe that pride in what those soldiers did in that company contributed to our success in Afghanistan. Soldiers in our brigade received more than 4,600 medals, including 66 Purple Hearts, more than 600 Bronze Stars, and 8 Bronze Stars in the key device. The 33rd also lost 19 soldiers. Those were mine. And while we were deployed, no matter what the scenario or how far it went into deployment, it never got easier. But just as our fellow soldiers did at Bataan, we endured and we fought hard. In a sense, I believe the soldiers of Maywood, Bravo Company, served together today alongside of us. They were there in Afghanistan with us. Their strength is present in the soldiers of the 33rd and the entire Illinois National Guard today. As General George Patton once said, courage doesn't really always roar. Sometimes courage is a quiet voice at the end of the day that says, I will try again tomorrow. Those who endured the Bataan death march and years of captivity never stopped trying. Many gave their last full measure of devotion. Others lived to tell the story, ensuring the sacrifice of these men and their families will never be forgotten. We stand together today as Americans. Today we are all members of the armed forces, all members of the Illinois Army National Guard, the 33rd Brigade Combat Team, my old unit, and the 192nd Tank Battalion. And today, we are also members of Bravo Company from Maywood. We remember the service and sacrifice of these soldiers, forever young. On the 72nd year of their heroic acts, we vow to never forget the pain and suffering these soldiers endured. These heroes may be gone, but we will ensure the memory never fades away. They and so many others set the example for all of us to follow, and we will.